August 30th, 2022, end of day, Tuesday. Our Father, who provides great miracles. John chapter 9, verses 13 to 14, speaking of a miracle that Jesus performed to heal a man who was born blind, says this: They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. Now, the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. This passage captures the moment when the astonishing miracle of a man born blind being able to see came into contact with the religious establishment of the time. When people who knew the man saw him able to see, they were stunned. They took him to the religious authorities to try and make sense of what had happened. The religious leaders were split in their understanding of what the miracle meant, as described in John chapter 9, verse 16. Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." But others asked, "How can a sinner perform such signs?" So they were divided. This conundrum of who Jesus was vexed the religious leaders because they did not believe in him, but at the same time there was no easy explanation for the miracles, and so some of the religious leaders were more cautious about criticizing Jesus because they did not want to be in direct conflict with God if Jesus was indeed sent by God. An example of this is when a religious teacher named Nicodemus came to visit Jesus, as recorded in John chapter 3, verse 2. He came to Jesus at night and said, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the signs you are doing if God were not with him." Again, the rationale being brought up is that the miracles being witnessed are so astounding that they can only be accomplished by divine power, and thus any person who is able to perform such miracles must be doing so with the approval of God. The obverse rationale, however, was also brought against Jesus by the religious leaders, where the fact that the miracles were done on a Sabbath day when no work of any kind could legally be done. They used this logic to try and besmirch Jesus, but earlier in the chapter, in verse 4, Jesus hauntingly said, "As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work." The Sabbath law strictly forbids anyone from doing work on that day, but certain exceptions are made to account for urgent situations. Prior to the confrontation with the religious leaders, Jesus had declared the urgency of the situation by saying that the window of opportunity to do God's work in the day was still open, thus everything that could be done had to be done urgently because night was coming when no one could work. Thus, the miracle was legally performed, and the accusations against Jesus were baseless. Amen.